Yeah, no
Okay.
biggie. No,
So
I've
we
had a
won't be
big.
able to go for a marathon or anything.
Well, an hour and a half is. Oh, are you talking? Hour and a half. Yeah.
An hour and a half. Yeah. If we have to go
Yeah.
shorter, that's okay too.
No, hour and a half is good. It's been a very.
That will be my max. So
It's well, yeah. We can cut off at like hour 20. That's cool.
okay,
Yeah,
that's
it's
cool.
been no. It's been a fantastic, incredible period and day. I had 2 shows prior, and they were just amazing. And but yeah, I was talking. I think on a show with Fiona Carthew, which was amazing.
Okay.
They're all just amazing. It's just what's happening. It's amazing. But and I was talking about. Of course, I don't go to bed now till 7 in the morning. You know,
Wow. Okay.
and I sleep. I sleep anywhere from 2 to 4 hours, it seems. But I was laying on I was trying to get tired, and I was thumbing through YouTube, and I was just talking about what happened. And I was laying on the couch, and your latest came up. It was, I think, episode 91. I can't remember the title, but it was something to the effect of, like going forward. And I was just having this moment when I was like, I'm going to sit here and watch Franco, because normally I'll watch for, I'll thumb through it. I just have this habit of thumbing through. It's kind of like picking up a book.
Huh?
You go through the pages, and I can't speak for anyone else, and I'm not saying I'm anything extraordinary. It's just my method, and I just pick up the vibe, and I just know I'm led to what I need to hear, and so on. But this particular transmission, because that's what it was this whole conversation with the big me and the little me. It was interesting. And it was like, the big me says, why don't you watch Franco through the whole thing, 2 hours? And I was like, well, because, I just, I pick up what I need, and kind of like what I just said. And then it was like, oh, really? Is that right? And I'm like, well, yeah, I think so. So I was going, but anyway, so as a result of it, I just played. And so I did probably like an hour and 15 minutes of it. I think I started in maybe 20 minutes into it when I really got, engaged in it. And I was, first of all, I was very reiterated to myself because you don't often think about things, and so and let me just say, Delia, that's Periscope that is working great. They're going to take it off. That's why I sent you the message, because we're now going to be uh, broadcasting on Twitter itself, and not Periscope, which was a subsidiary of Twitter. But anyway, but it's the simplicity and thoroughness, of course, of the way you deliver the message over, say, a 2-hour episode. But in that episode in particular, you talked about, in the middle of it, you talked about specifically about how the ego programming and the thoughts that are correlate with it, that chatter, right, or whatever we want to call it, how it is not being supported. But the way you spoke about it, I thought, was very interesting in these times, because the playing field is getting leveled, is the way I see it. Everyone and everything is being brought down. That's probably not the right way to put it. Brought up to, in proportion to their soul lineage, in proportion to their human lineage, however you want to look at it. But in this time of less separation, less division, more unity consciousness, more oneness, it is a multidimensional perspective. And so it doesn't always look the same for everybody. But what I got from it, I thought, was really golden, because it doesn't matter who you are, what you've been, doesn't matter. None of it matters. What matters is that the same thing is occurring for everyone. and that even when we are in resistance, because really that's probably the best way to put it, to our oneness and our unity, not to give away our uniqueness of our soul signature, that these things at the human level, which is always my greatest interest, what does this look like at the human level? I mean, I understand this and that and this and that, and I'm hearing what you're saying, whether it's you or someone else, but what does that mean at the human level? And to me, it was a really, really simple, profound commentary, because they're just not going to hold water anymore.
Correct.
And so that's a really simple kind of synopsis, but at the same time, it's a very realistic occurrence, because I'm a big believer that experience is the only teacher. You can tell me whatever you want. And that's what I said in that chat with my friend. I said, this is my brother. I mean, he's someone I have tremendous respect for, a lot like, Morgan and a few others in my own world. And, but to experience what's being said, the way that you said it, I think that many, many people can relate to this now. Mm-hmm. That if they stop and take a breath and they think about the things that are being presented to them in their head, they can, if they stop and take a breath, as I have many times a day when I eat humble pie, that it's actually, to me, probably one of the biggest, if not the biggest, validation and verification that this is going down. It's not what's going on out there and and the distortion and we need to fix this and that. It's just the reality that these loops and these tapes, or whatever you want to call it, that have been playing in our head, they're just going away, even when we are resistant to letting them go. So I just want to say a big props to you for that. And I want to encourage people always to, check into Advancing Consciousness, your work you and Kimberly are doing. But this particular episode to me was a real grounding, 2 hours and 16 minutes, which I'm about about an hour and probably close to hour and a half into it. And I still have some to watch, but yeah. So yeah, I just don't know if you want to start there, if you want to start anywhere, it doesn't matter, because it's Franco Friday.
I love these Fridays that we get together. So this is the Todd Franco powwow, whatever we want to call it. We do unpack a lot of things, and no matter what I share and what you share, and you bring in an experiences, I bring our experiences, and then people just kind of really have more relatability and actually turn themselves on a little bit more to their own knowing. So yes, I mean, I did say very much so that the ego itself, which is the actual operating system, hasn't been supported for the last couple of years. But because of the increasing energy, us coming back on our highest self, or the unified versions of ourselves, all stepping up to the next role, is basically at this time disarming and actually weakening the ego's grip and the ego's navigational point. Now, that doesn't mean it's all gone, but in most cases, it is a fraction of what it used to be. It could be anywhere from 20 to, or even as low as 5%, depending on the individual. And some people have close to zero. However, right now, what's left, and what people think it's ego most of the time, which is not always the case, is basically old patterns. If we're so used to responding a certain way, and we've done things a certain way, we've been kind of conditioned a certain way, we have bits of those things coming up. Now, they're coming up not to take over, it's to expose itself, so that we actually make a choice. Do I still feed this? Do I still play with this? Do I still use this? Or do I let it go? And if I let it go, I open myself to something even more powerful, which is what we're bringing in. And that stems very much so because all of these patterns, programs, belief systems, and adopted ideas and so forth are from an older world, an older version, and of course, all that inverted stuff. And all of us are carrying it. And this is the part that we're purging. And it's not.
I just want to clarify that again, because I really think that's important. So what you're saying is that how do you quantify the timeline? But I mean, so what you're saying is, we'll just speak in these present past, the very recent past weeks and now, it seems like what you're saying is that these can be getting very loud right now for the specific purpose of bringing us to a point or another choice point or a series of choice points to say, do I want to hold on to this? Do I want to play with this? Do I want to be swimming in this particular level of consciousness, or do I want to let this go? But I guess my point is that many things, and in general, its presence itself may have gotten very loud recently. Would that be accurate?
Yes, absolutely. Okay. Well, each time we have an upgrade within ourselves, each wave of energy, which we just had one and we're still in the midst of it, it basically brings it up to the surface more. Why? We're actually the ones bringing it up to the surface. It's not something outside of us. It's not the energies. The energies are turning us on, really turning us back on, because it's see, this is the way it works. We're so used to playing at such a level. Every time there's a pulse, it actually triggers our availability of our frequency. So as we raise our frequency, those older, lower frequency constructs and experiences and memories basically don't match. So they'll just come up to the surface to be exposed, so that you could actually now make peace with it. And, first of all, acknowledge it, thank it, and love it, and let it go, because it doesn't serve you any longer. So this is the thing. Like even the inverted matrix, for example, it doesn't exist. It's been gone for 2 years. And this is the reason that the inverted world is no longer supported. Plus the fact that, even the transmission from the moon, all that stuff got turned off in regards to that particular support mechanism. It's still active to a certain degree, but it's not streaming and supporting an inverted matrix. That's gone. All we were living up to this point in time is our old version of ourselves that was a reflection of that inverted world. Of course, as we've been going through, that's what we've been purging. We've been purging that inverted world that we've kind of stamped ourselves as, or whatever. So this is the part that's all going on. So every time these new energies come in, we go up another notch. And as we go up another notch, we get to see the lower notches. And those lower notches, there's nothing to demonize it or see right, wrong, good, bad about it, but to see that is a construct, a makeup of that inverted world, that a lower version of ourselves, when we chose to have that experience. So when it comes up, it's up to us to say, do I still play there or not? Of course, you have to be at peace with it, because if you got judgment for it, you're basically going to hold on to it until you get to the point where you just can't hold on to it anymore. And that's a choice you make. Everyone makes, that's the way it works. So every time another wave comes in, you're going to feel emotions. You're going to feel old memories. You're going to feel stuff. Why is it coming up? Because basically we're putting a completion to it. It's about letting all that no longer serves just go. Now, does it have to be difficult? No. However, if we're holding on to it and we kind of see it that it has to be difficult to do so, it may feel that way. And sometimes we'll have a tug of war or struggle with it, or, because part of our memory is that we've put aside who we really are and adopted another version of ourselves. And then we built a life on that, because it's not only your life, you've also created connections in that life. That means family, that means co-workers, friendships, communities, and organizations. So it's supported. But the real you, the part that's coming up to the surface, you don't have as many connections because they are reestablishing. This is why we get together in these type of calls and communities and so forth of what people call like-minded, is to establish more support mechanisms. But the support is not the support that people talked about all this time. Support meaning holding the space or something. The support is that you're going to create movement within those energies and so forth to remember, to trigger more of your own access amongst each other. That's all it is. So this is why we're doing these calls. This is why you do everything that you do every single day, is to create an environment where people are sharing, and where people, when you're sharing and everybody else is connecting with it, they're waking themselves up. And basically they're accessing their knowing, they're accessing their true understanding, their divinity of why they're even here. So that's really what's going on in that regard. So it's not about anything fixing or changing or whatever it is. It's just basically, like I say, we're turning ourselves on more and more to our true nature, true beingness. That's really what we are doing at this point. And the more we do that, we're going to find that the old world starts to fall apart and a new one develops. The new one, of course, is going to be handcrafted. You're going to be very selective. You're not going to just follow into patterns. You're going to kind of spend some quality time tuning in and plugging in bits and pieces and so forth. Plus, like I've said before many times, and we've talked about this, we don't have the rigid timelines. We no longer even have a path forward. We have an open platform that we can shape and plug in anything we choose each moment. Sometimes people are disconcerting about that because they're saying, oh, wait a minute, I just plugged in this brand new relationship and I'm having a blast, and then it goes. Why? Because it came in, it served, now it doesn't serve any longer, and we let it go. But our old mentality, our old pattern is relationships last a long time and it defines you and it does this. But no, each playmate, and I'm not saying this is always the case for everybody, but each playmate, each connection, each endeavor you take on is going to feed and support where you are only for that period of time. That period of time could be one moment, could be a few years or decades or whatever it is. But we have to be in that fluid state where you allow things to flow in and out all the time. That's why we talk about flow. But true flow is not like, oh, just be nothing. No, flow meaning you're taking an active role of bringing yourself into this playground.
Yeah.
And then at this time is not to hang on to anything. So you're basically creating and shaping and moving forward, and just continue doing that, because that's where we feel most natural as spirit and as human. Because the idea that human is only within this range and has a certain construct and has to stabilize themselves in a certain way and create a homestead of an idea of life was never our natural design.
It's true.
And that's what's coming up to the surface.
And it's interesting too, because there can be resistance in holding on. In other words, you resist letting go, but there can also be resistance in letting go. And what I mean by that is that you have to let go. Like everything, everything external of me is the universal. I like to say, the universe is my twin flame, right? I mean, this is it. But it can be many different it can be with what you're looking at and what you're not looking at, So I mean, it's opening up on the front end and the back end. It's pretty amazing. It's like having 360 vision. Another thing, I talk about, I talk a lot about humble pie, because I feel like humility, since I hit the streets 10 years ago, has been my barometer. And if I'm not being humbled And thank God, thank the gods, the you, me, we, and it. It's not to the lessons aren't. I'm listening more. Or maybe you want to put it that way. But I had an interesting thing happen to me this morning, because another thing that I'm finding, because you can't fake humility and you can't fake gratitude. You can do positive affirmations. I'm grateful for this. I'm grateful for that. But you're just bullshitting yourself
Exactly.
when it comes to the things that you're resisting in this knowing that's encompassing all of us. So normally, when I have, and I really don't prefer to use these terms. I use the terms in writing, capital M-E and then lowercase m-e, and have these, I hope, humorous concepts or humorous conversations that I can share with others to speak between the words, right? Between the lines. So normally it's lowercase me will pose a question as I sit on my bed before I start my day and throughout the day if I have these conversations, and that will start the conversation of the capital letters me then responding, and then so we go. But it was interesting this morning because as I sat there about to go through which I had been doing for the past few weeks, what am I grateful for, kind of thing. When I sat down, the capital me started the conversation. And it was funny because it said, what do you have to complain about? And I said, oh, first of all, I didn't pose a question. And second of all, let me just consider this for a moment. And I thought to myself, in that moment, not to say that things won't come up later, but in that moment, I said, I don't have anything to complain about. I have nothing to complain about. And I meant it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I heard, good. Let's move on to the next lesson today, knowing that there could be, a complaint come up in me tomorrow and more humility to be found and gratitude and all that. But I thought it was interesting because it kind of spoke to me, the spirit of it, the pattern of it, the reverse or inverse of it kind of spoke to me of this transitionary mobile fluidity, not obviously not a consciousness or a space of stagnation, that just basically showed me a little something. Maybe you want to call it more integration of higher self to human self, but I thought it was an interesting exchange in that the capital ME initiated the conversation, which has happened before. I'm not saying that it hasn't happened before, but not in this format, specific to the wording, because I'm not a big complainer. We've all had our moments in victim consciousness and obviously unconscious complaining, but it was just very apropos that the words, what do you have to complain about today? Which was just another way of presenting, what am I grateful for?
Exactly.
So, yeah, it was interesting. And I felt like it was something worth mentioning, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, the thing about gratefulness and so forth, like you said, you can't bullshit it. You can't bullshit positive, affirmations or something of that nature, because, a lot of us, at one point, says, I'm this, I'm that, or whatever it is, in affirmations and whatever. And there's the other part of you saying this is bullshit, bullshit, bullshit. And we'll give you 10 million reasons why you're not that. But when you get to the point where you're completely full of that knowing of yourself, that, again, there's two different things to that, because there's the illusionary affirmation, which is like the inverted creating another inverted, or there's the true. The true will resonate because the deeper part of you, the knowing part of you, says, yeah, that is true. Now let's put it into activation. Let's put it into action, type of thing. When it comes to the gratefulness, yeah, you can't bullshit it, because you have to be genuine to the point where you're grateful. Because if you still have an idea that this was not a good thing, it was a bad thing, or that, you know, the only way I can get out of this mess is I'm going to be grateful, it doesn't work, because it's bullshit at that point to you, of course. But when you're going to the point, and like you said, humble pie, whatever, you say, okay, great. I want to really look at this, because I know there is something it served me with, because if it wasn't going to serve me, I wouldn't have brought it in. I would have not agreed to have it play out if it involved somebody else, or the fact that I would not have been a co-creator of it. So this is the part that people have had a lot of difficulty with before, and less now, is going in, looking at what truly it provided for you.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's always a gift, even in the most traumatic, most intensified, and most so-called polarized, or else you wouldn't have been engaged in it. And there are no perpetrators for you to, even being the victim, you can be grateful and say, oh, wow, I got to see what gratefulness feels like, or what victimhood looks like, or anything of that nature. So when we get to that genuine part, then even our stories and whatever we label as good, bad, right, wrong, or traumatic or otherwise, now could fade with ease, because we're at a position right now. Nothing has to be difficult.
Mm-hmm.
We'll still create difficulty because we're still holding on. But when we truly see the beauty of it, and really go into a state of gratefulness, and go into a straight of course, gratefulness, appreciation is the same, but going into that state of love for that creation, and acknowledging to yourself the powerful being that you are, for participating, for creating it, for experiencing what you did. Like, for example, you said experience is the true learning. Well, there's more to that. The learning is a knowing that I can create something and experience it. And when I go into experience, I just bring it to the next level of knowing, and the next level of so-called learning of what I can possibly create, and how I can choose how I want to label it, or have no label and just see it for what it is, an experience, which is kind of what we do. So there's so much around that, and the letting go, like I said, it becomes easier when you truly are not, you go out of your bullshit state and you go into your true state, and you acknowledge it. Whatever, it doesn't matter where it came from, what played out or didn't play out at any point in time, it becomes so much easier in that case. Now, we are high vibrational beings, okay? And high vibrational beings and high frequency beings is our natural state. Now, we've played in these lower states. So some people say, well, how do I allow my frequency to go up and my vibrations to go up? Well, the thing is to acknowledge and notice, pay attention to what action, thoughts, or what entanglement of a story or label drops it for you. Once you know, oh, okay, this is, now don't see it that, oh my God, that's bad, I got to get out of it. No, you see it, a drop, and say, oh, okay, you're making yourself present. What's this all about? What did I miss out on here? What do I need to look at? What do I need to, what gold can I get, or what gem can I pull out of that, so that I can now let it go? Because as soon as you let go of all of this stuff, it goes up. Now, you've probably noticed it. Every time we have a burst of energy coming in, and encodements and codes and whatever it is, we tend to find that our vibration can drop, our frequency can drop. Well, it goes back to what we were saying in the beginning. It's just bringing up older stuff so that you could see it and say, oh, these things are active. Now I can see it. So you can let it go a lot easier. And then you go up, and you can just keep going incrementally up along the way. The energies are not there to take you down. It's not to knock you over. but it can feel that way because it's bringing up the stuff that we've kind of put in the cellar and locked it out and threw the key away, because it's basically saying, hey, wait a minute, it's coming through the floorboards now. It's not going to be, you can't keep
It's
it
like the
locked down
crazy. It's like the
anymore.
crazy ant in the attic.
Yeah,
But no,
exactly.
that's a good point too, because I tried to go through this last little burst with a lot of humor, and I enjoyed myself, just making fun of the whole thing. But it was obvious that from what I could see and observe and be in check with myself, was the hugeness of this stuff that had that frequency of the crazy ant locked away in the attic. Because you're
Mm.
right, coming through the floorboards. One of the things that gave me a lot of perspective. I had a series of lucid dreams. I've been having a lot of lucid dreams. I had one in particular that was really profound, which was just to go over it real quick, a big white house that I always go to. And one of the things too that occurred, not just with this, but with other I guess we'll call them memories, was that they came in with such clarity as a singular event, but they brought back the clarity or even the forgetfulness of all the ones that were attached to it. So, like in
Mhm.
this case, uh, and I'll give you another one real quick, and then go back to you for some clarification and expansion. But in this case, it's a big white house. Uh, that's my house, right? But inside the house, there's another house that no one ever goes into but me. Now, in this particular dream, I allowed two energies to come in. One was a mother, and one was the daughter of the mother. So that was interesting. There's three entryways into this inner sanctum. I showed them the place, which had all these things that were part of me or whatever, special, whatever. But there was about a 20-foot long scroll with leather on the outside, papyrus on the inside. And I showed them this, and it was I guess, my blueprint or something to that effect. So with that came about uh, the remembrance of, I'm guessing, 50 other lucid dreams that all took place in this place. Of course, I was always alone in the secret place. So there was that element of, wow, wait a minute, I just got this big one, and with it came the remembrance of all the other ones, which I haven't even tapped into, but just knowing that this is a real place, right?
Mhm.
But I think a better example has been over the last 2-3 weeks or so, the recall of off-planet uh, memories
Mhm.
of being maybe not distinct episodes and events, like being able to recall, hey, this is what happened. These two feminine energies came in, but the energy of it, the frequency band of it. What did you tell me the other day when I said to you, I'm just going for the word, but I said, why is it that, when you speak of our original planet, but you said our original, what was it? Light frequency, something like that.
Home frequency.
Home frequency.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So it's more of this recall of off-planet incarnations. It's not like traveling and experiencing. It's just more like coding, coming back on board. It's more of like the home frequency, right? Home
Mhm.
frequency is something I carry with me, and it's kind of the space I can recall from. But anyway, my point is that these flashes of incarnations on other planets, other universes, whatever, the takeaway was that I fully recalled over and over and over and over and over that I was bored in these experiences, that they were very limited, that I could only go 10 degrees up and 10 degrees down and 10 to the side and 10. And it was like, okay, I've had enough of this. I'm getting out of here, kind of thing. And what happened not only did I have the recollection, and again, one bringing in the clarity or the connection to all the other ones. Oh yeah, 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 yeah. Now I remember. But giving me, and you know how much respect and love I have and reverence for the earth and for the human. But I was like, oh my God, we are in the playground of all playgrounds.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is about to get really, really, really exciting and interesting because, given to what you were just talking about, if those elements are being let go, we never lose anything. And what we have will actually grow a billionfold, be it a person, a relationship, a vocation like Soulology for me, or whatever the case is. Uh, Everything is just going to explode now. And I'm getting this and going, wow, this is really cool. So I don't know what you can add to that or expand on it, but
Well, I think you did really well with that. And I like what you said about, when you're looking at the memories of other planets and so forth. And because in a way, it allows you to have even more appreciation for being here. And at the same time, when you're having those memories, go, oh, okay, this is why I chose here, because I chose here to really, use my skill sets and my capacities and really have the extremes and also get lost and do whatever it is and then shift away from that, because that's how I get to see how powerful I am, what I'm capable of, and where I can really shine for yourself. So those are, really great experiences that you have, because it is, I mean, and I've mentioned it before, not today, but other times, and even in my episodes and so forth. And in the last episode, I think, or the one before that, I mentioned the fact that you're here, and it's not about, in a sense, saying, okay, let me just put in my time and then I'm going to go home to where Nirvana is, or, back to the heavens, or whatever, like people want to label it, go home to my own planet. What you brought in as an experience, when you remember those other planets, and not that we have a home planet, because we don't. We have planets that we've actually incarnated several times and have had the opportunity to be able to relate with that consciousness and that frequency. But the thing is, we've come here because of the fact that we wanted to have something different. And to give us even a higher appreciation to be here, and then not to say, well, okay, I'm stuck here. Let me put my time and then I'll go home, and then I'll go back to where it really feels like home. Because I can tell you one thing, and I'm going to share this. And I'm not going to mention any names, but there's been 2 or 3 people, 3 to be exact, but let's put it to the point, one accentuated. We did a regression some year. This goes back a few years ago. And this one particular lady just kept saying, I want to go home, 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 right? And because of the fact that whatever was happening here was just beyond, what she was, I didn't sign up for this. I got hijacked, I got brought here, whatever it was, right? So we ended up doing a regression, okay? And I said, okay, we're going to regress your multidimensional soul. We're not going to regress your body or the human entity. We're going to regress only your multidimensional soul. And we're going to go back to the planet and the body that seems to be the most prevalent for you, where you have the highest level of skill sets. Okay? So we did. I regressed her back to that time. She saw herself on that planet. She saw herself in that particular body. And I said, okay, now, just observe, just be present there, go through the experience of what it feels like to be there. And so because she was in an altered state, I said, okay, what are you seeing? What are you feeling? So I was getting feedback from her. Of course, I recorded everything for her, not for myself, but I recorded so that she can have a reference point. So she was describing what she was feeling. She was describing the connection. She was describing how it felt in the body. She was describing how it felt on the planet. She was describing how the interactions were with others and so forth. And this went on for a good hour, if not a little bit more. And when we were done, I said, okay, now we got to come back here. So I pulled her out of the regressional period. And then I had the conversation with her. I said, so, okay, now you went to the so-called memory of your favorite planet, the planet and body that you most kept saying, I want to go home to. So I said, okay, now, what did you get out of it? What do you feel? Do you still feel like you want to go home? And all she said, that was a great experience. That was a great, how does she call it? Walk back into that particular experience, that particular life stream. But I can also see where I'm at right now, that wouldn't be so satisfying. And now I have a different appreciation of being here. So I said, okay, what would be your main focus or intent from this moment? And all she said is, I'm going to embody this experience. I'm going to embody this physicality, and I'm going to push myself to live to the fullest and experiment like crazy. Mm-hmm. Meaning, I will do things I've never done before in this form. I will go and be or take on roles that I've always been so afraid to do so before. Now, here's this lady. She's a mature lady, meaning that she's had some years. After that process, okay, she was at an age where most people say, well, I'm retired, it's too late, whatever it is. No. It was like a rebirth for her. Up to that point in time, she told me she could not figure out what kept her alive, because she always wanted to commit suicide because she was just like, couldn't handle this life. We've stayed in touch over the years, and I'm telling you, she's like basically created a whole new life stream to the point where she's having a blast. Why? Because realizing, hey, I'm going to use this opportunity to the max. Like I'm in this video game, in this video, this, whatever you want to call it, this amusement park, and I'm going to experience it. So the thing is, there's nothing outside of us that's better than where we are now. First thing I want to say. You're not going to go anywhere unless it actually serves you and you have the say to it, besides your programmed condition. At the same time, you also have to keep in mind that you, all of us, I don't mean you specifically, all of us are to embody and really full throttle use this opportunity in this body, on this playground, with all the polarities, all the restrictions and so forth, to really be truly yourself and expand yourself in ways that you couldn't do in other playgrounds. Mm-hmm. Okay? So this is the thing, is once we embody that within ourselves, that I'm going to take this to the max and I'm going to have a blast no matter what. And we're infinite, of course. You know, the idea that, you know, we will die, that means just that we transition, we drop this particular physicality, we create another combination. There are many souls here that basically have already made commitments that should they slide off the scale and check out in this form, they said they're going to push in the line to get back in.
Of course.
As a drop-in, not even going into the birthing process. Mm-hmm. Because of the fact that they really want to take this opportunity to push it even further. And that's the beauty of it once we understand it.
Yeah.
And we know that inside. All of us know it. we just kind of denied it, or basically have put it so deep dormant that it's only starting to surface now. The only reason anyone's hearing this right now is because they want to stimulate and bring that forth. So it's not about, oh my God, I got to wait for all these restrictions, all these crazy people that are in charge and so forth to kind of shift before I can go out and play and be myself. No, the thing is, it doesn't matter what the game is. I'm going to play full throttle, and the game's going to change because I'm changing.
This is, yeah. I mean, if you think about it, it makes total sense. You know, the universe is set up from the human perspective in a paradoxical way. The paradox itself is the 0 point. You know, there is the paradox, or the spin on it is the paradox is not a paradox. So it's, but if you think about it, it makes sense, because if you took your human perspective out of it, where could you get the most? You can get the most from the most data, you know, from the most information to formulate whatever you're wanting to create. So then if you throw into it, what has been the hindrance, what has kept me from seeing that which you're speaking of, has been my human experience, right? So once that gets, you know, put into the right alignment, then you realize, oh, wait. So really, it's the human or the human story or the human experience that I create is where I get the most bang for my buck, right? I mean, it really is like, and again, I know these things are simple, but to me, that's how I understand things. So it's like, who do you want to be with? What do you want to do? And not even so much in terms of the overall bend of your life, but in terms of right now. What do I want to do now? What would I like to do now? I mean, this is you know, in this moment, I wouldn't want to do anything else. This is perfect. We got 245, me and you, 46 and 47, you know, people that are creating this vortex of expanding consciousness built from the desire to to do just that, right? To expand. And here we are in the most what was what our weakness, right? This dense body, this cold, dense body, but really that's not what it is. It's it's the paradox. It's the soul, the spirit, and this human body. You could call it the Holy Trinity. You call it whatever you want to call it, but it is what it is. And it's getting really, really exciting, and it's getting to the point where I see where you can't deny it. You know, I get a lot of messages, and they're getting more and more and more. I can see the expansion that's happening with Soulji and the field and so on. And I just got a follow-up message from a lady. I'm going to say she's probably 35. You know, I've only seen her picture. So many things in this message. And I asked her to come on. She said, no, I'd rather not do that. I said, can I talk about your story? Because I think it would be beneficial. She was writing to get some validation or sanity or something. Now, what she described was, there was a couple things. And again, this is very layman. It's very human, but it also speaks to so many things. Now, first of all, she's in a relationship with a very good man who isn't into this stuff, but who loves life and who's illuminated in that way. Now, she starts having Kundalini experiences to include orgasmic sensations throughout her lower and other chakras, and she doesn't know what the hell's going on, right? So she writes me the note and says, can you help me? I said, well, that's not really my specialty, but, you know, Morgan could certainly speak to it, but I've heard enough from her and experienced my own to know that it's okay. It's actually a great sign. You're coming on board more from what I can understand, and you probably want to check here, check there, talk to Morgan, whatever. But yeah, so I'm sitting here talking to you, and there's no coincidences, and I can only see the first part of her message. And she says, This is the second part of the message. The first part said, it's now expanded to my cells in my body, to the cells in my body. And then the second part says that, let me just pull it back up. I'm not sure if anyone's experiencing this, which is how she started the first message, which to me is a great frequency of humility. But it's buzzing, almost shaking, infiltrating, feeling in my body and my energy self as well. I feel so at ease and at peace. I mean, this is what you're talking about. This is this alternate vessel, or whatever you want to call it, this body that we created that's actually experiencing what we experience normally. And we've created and integrated and whatever the words are, this space, this home frequency right here. It's not out there, it's right here. And now we're starting to have these experiences. And the more people that I talk to and the more messages I get, the more, even like the lady we just had on, Nicola Farmer, incredible lady, I mean, absolutely amazing. The more I realize there's so many of us here, it's not even funny. We haven't even begun to see, and of course, ultimately it'll be everyone, but I'm just saying there's a lot of people lit right now and it's happening rapidly. So, there's just a few different things that people can glean from that, such as being in a relationship with someone that's not awake or not like us, to the physical experience of this, whatever you want to call it, the Kundalini energy, the soul, whatever you want to call it. Coming online in the body. You're not alone. We're not alone. I mean, you're not crazy. I mean, this is extraordinary to think where we've come from, say just from 2012. And you would know because you've been doing this for 37 years to see this happening now. I mean, no wonder every time we see you, you got a bigger smile on your face every time. Go ahead.
Well, you make me smile, of course, but yes, absolutely. And that's the thing. So what you were describing with that girl is that she's coming alive. She's bringing life to a limited life she's been experiencing in a physical form. So she's coming alive. And this is what we're all doing. We're all doing that. Okay. And to some degree or another, some of us will notice it more than others. So all of this, coming to an awakening, to a Kundalini experience or this or that, it's really coming to life, turning yourself back on to that. And the thing is, you're becoming alive and then your body's transforming into that aliveness so that you now are becoming energetic at those higher vibrations and frequencies throughout, from cellular to your chakras, your DNAs, all parts of you, and you emanate in a very powerful way. So the thing I want to say also is that as long as we believe and hold on to the idea that we made mistakes, or that we have to be safe, or that we have to quantify anything, we play small. And this is not what we came here to do. We came here to play big. And when I say big, meaning you, full throttle, full alive. A lot of people say, I am alive. But how alive are you? Because once you compare to the level of life or aliveness at different stages in your life, you will notice that you're more alive now than ever, and you're pushing yourself to become more alive. That means you're more attentive, you're more active, you're more creative mode, and you are appreciating and enjoying every creation and expanding it further. That's what life is. I know some people will say, oh, it's easier said than done. Or the fact that, oh, if it was that easy, everybody was doing it. Well, it is easy. Okay? Except we believe it isn't easy, that it requires a process, and then we have to frickin' hold on to dear life of what our history, stories, and so forth, of whatever it was. the thing is, when we go into abandonment of our old self, abandonment of whatever we've held on to, saying, that's it, I let it all go. And it doesn't matter who goes with it, because then I will bring myself in to my true state and create new arrangements or whatever it is. So that's the thing. It used to be more difficult. It looks more profound now because of all the restrictions. But this restriction is to bring us to be true to ourselves. I know I've said this before, but true to ourselves. So the choices that we make, is this a choice that I make fully and completely because it fully resonates for me? Or am I making this choice because someone expects it, or that is the right thing to do because that's how it's been taught, or anything of that nature? That's the thing.
Bingo.
So it doesn't matter what anybody says. Is it what I want to participate or not?
Yeah, I a quick comment, and I have a curious question too, just to give us some contrast from your wealth of experience. So the comment is, well, first of all, let me just say that what you said is so important, because a lot of the time we've got to this point where, I'm going to do what I want to do. I don't care what people think, and that's great. But you're even taking it deeper. Am I being true to myself, or am I subservient, because there's not a better word for me, to what I believe can be done? Because I'll give you a quick example. So I started the reprocess of getting the legalities worked out for immigration, and decided to go ahead and have faith and know that the abundance will come, and hire a very good friend of mine, or of ours, Sology, longtime supporter, his relative, who assisted me a couple of years ago when I tried to do it on my own. So as I have initiated this, or reinitiated this, I keep hearing, what are you doing? You're wasting your time. You're sending the universe two different signals. Are you an infinite being that just happens to have incarnated in this body? And how much longer are you going to be a slave to your belief systems? And of course, the lowercase me goes, well, I know you're right. So are you asking me how big my balls are? And the capital ME says, nothing. Just looks at me and says, well, are you going to shift or get off the pot? Well, what is Morgan going to think? And what is the United States government going to think? And the capital letter MEs looks at me, doesn't say a word, and says, kind of like tapping, like, are you, okay. So that's kind of my point. Another analogy would be, when I have these memories that specifically that I told you have come online stronger in the last 3 weeks. One of the home frequencies is me, which is me, the big ME, sitting back watching the video game. And you talk about simulations and alternate realities. And I constantly am pushing stop, rewind. Let's make this a little tougher. This is too easy. Okay. I've already figured it out, and I know that it's going to end great, but I want to make it even harder. I want to forget more. So I'll give you a quick example. I don't even know why this popped in my head. So I used to hang out at a recreation center in my junior high years, and they had a lot of activities. I played basketball every day. And one summer they had a bumper pool table, but it was with, instead of balls, it was these little disc things, right? With rubber around them, a rubber bumper pool. So they put up a contest, and they had a chart. They had these popsicle sticks with our names on them, and you would challenge the person in front of you, and then you would get to the top. And then, of course, if you were in the top 2 or 3 or 4 positions, you were constantly being hammered by people, and it was very time consuming. And I'd rather play basketball than get a trophy for playing bumper pool.
Mhm.
So what happened was about now there was probably 40 names on this thing, right? And about 5 days before the contest was over, and they were going to give 3 trophies away, first, second, and third, I just pulled myself out. I was tired of people coming and get me out of the gym and saying, let's go play. You got to play. That's the way it works. If you turn this down, then you got to go to the bottom. I'm like, F it. I'm out. So the next day or the 3 days before the contest end, I just decided, you know what? I'm going to get back in the contest. So I'm working my way up the ladder right to the last day, to the last hour, and I ended up being in second place, getting a second place trophy because the first guy decided to leave. I don't know if I'd have beat him or not, but anyway. But my point is that's a metaphor and an analogy for what I picked up from my home frequency as these memories have come back online, is that nobody, I mean, I know we do this all collectively, but I'm the one running the simulations. I'm the one that's going, I remember when I first woke up, I met a woman, her son who had transitioned was kind of like my guide in those early days. I watched 36 runs, 36 simulations that I had with this person up to that point. I didn't understand it at the time. I began to understand it later. Now I more fully understand that I was creating more degrees of difficulty because I wanted to get the most out of it, right? So whether, like I said, whatever my experience is, it's actually all of it. All of them are my experiences. So it's not just a multidimensionality within a soul lineage of I've been on Arcturus and I've been on this and there and that. There's actually as I feel it into it now, a multidimensionality, a multi-experience within the seemingly singular experience of one incarnation on the face of the earth, if you get what I'm saying.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
yeah. Go ahead.
Well, every time that we're actually tapping into any of our memories and so forth, we're actually enacting a simulation of some sort. And if we recognize that and pay attention to what the simulation feels like, and when I mean feel like, does it actually resonate and so forth, it makes it easier for you to kind of, you can extract what you need from the simulation, but then when you go out and play, which is your awakened state or whatever you want to call it, at that point in time, you use the most resonant state of yourself to enact, actually play out and experience it physically and much more attuned whatever you wanted to experience, because the simulation gives you an idea. Now, a lot of us don't realize how much time we put into simulation. Every time we start thinking of the past, every time we start thinking, oh, this person said that, what did they say this, or whatever it is, oh, this can go down this path and so forth. But it's great that what you said, because in that regards, you can see all the different facets of those simulations, and how do I move into this, and what do I want to choose to play for, or play it out as, and that's one of the beauties that we have that easy freedom of that capacity of using simulation, which is something that I have not seen in any of the places I've tuned into, talking about other planets and so forth, and even from that simulation of that nature is that available. It's almost like it doesn't even exist, but here it does. There's a lot of things that exist here that do not exist elsewhere on other playgrounds, and the capacity of change and the capacity of polarity and all of that stuff while we were entertaining it, and also the level of free will and so forth, and even sovereignty, because it is like amazing. Let me give you an example. I love what you say. You always trigger a lot of different things to share. In a lot of different planets, if anybody remembers, and I'm sure you've had a glimpse of it from the original one you said earlier in our call today, is that community collaboration is deeper in a lot of different planets in different forms, where the uniqueness of each individual is less expressed.
Mm-hmm.
There's more commonality. There's a little bit more of a sharing, and almost like you only play enough of your uniqueness that is kind of accepted in the collective of sort, like agreed upon in the collective. Where here on this planet, you can be fully unique.
Mm-hmm.
You can be fully sovereign in a sense where I choose along the way, and everything is constructed in such a way that it not only allows it, but emphasizes and supports it, which creates multiple blends of experiences. I found that fascinating when I did that look a couple of decades ago. I spent some time in observing the differences, because I knew one day I'd be sharing it. I shared bits and pieces, but today we get to share it a little more. The difference is because, I kept hearing from people that, this is a prison planet. This planet has, and it can simulate that, of course. It can feel that way too, depending on what we take on. But that there were way better places, better evolved beings, and so forth. Evolution doesn't relate with experience, depending on where you are, because if you bring a higher evolved version of your, say, multidimensional, and you combine with different evolved states of your human entity and body, here you will be able to do much more because the platform is a lot more open, in a sense, versus somewhere else. So you may have, just to take an example, and I will cut it off at that because I don't want to lose anybody here. But for you to be, say, on a Palladian planet, okay, and you have a certain dimensional consciousness, and you have a certain access point of your sourceness, your essence, creator, whatever it is. While you're playing there, what you do and are capable of doing while you're there, you get to use that consciousness, but you don't have the same level of open platform to be able to create multiple simulation, multiple versions, multiple whatever. It is more concentrated. So you play within a band. In a way you could say, well, it's restricted and what you used before, boring of sorts. But when you come here and you bring that here on this playground, you will notice that you get more access. Now, I'll throw this one last piece and then I'll keep quiet. Not that I'm very good at that, but anyways. There are some souls, multidimensional souls that embodied on planet Earth. Okay, some were drop-ins. This doesn't go that long ago, just a few years ago. When I brought them into an altered state and had a communication with them, for them to talk from that point there, I asked them, I said, what brought you here to embody a human physicality from wherever they came from wherever, other planets they came from, or when nobody comes from anywhere, everybody's just field, but where they've spent more their time. Okay. Mm-hmm. And all of them, there was only a handful of them. I didn't do it with many people, but all of them that were so-called drop-ins or two of them were complete birth and 3 were drop-ins. They have all said that they had noticed that they would be able to do much more here and be able to exercise more of their consciousness, their dimensional awareness, and embody an experience here using that awareness compared to any other
Mm.
places they have been on.
You
Okay.
just said a lot there. You said a lot there.
And most of us that are here know that from within,
Yeah.
because many of you are from other places and have a memory of that. And others may not have so much of a memory of it, but you know it inside. I'm not sharing anything. Don't believe me what I'm saying.
No, no.
No, I'm saying this across the board. People, it resonates with you because it's your knowing. You know that.
You know, yeah. I think of two situations, and I'm going to go back to my question I didn't ask, which is right in line with what you're talking about, but closer to home, so to speak. So two situations. One, that download or whatever remembrance of the 36 simulations I had with this other person. I remember now, after listening to you, I remember why I chose the 37th and not to, but because it was the same pattern from what I just remembered of off planet stuff, which was I'm hitting my head here. I want to get more out of this. I can think of another time, which just popped into my head when I went to the Harris County Jail for 34 days. And in that experience, obviously you said something earlier about, the experiences we have, even if they're very, very to the human extreme, they have the gold is there, right? And I experienced that gold. I experienced it so much, I said, wow, this is like, I could not have attained this level of awareness while I'm here. This is happening while I'm in the cell, while I'm actually in jail. At the same time, I went, but I don't. And I had recall in that moment. I had recall of, you can go down this path. You can go into the prison system. But in that moment, and it wasn't like, oh my God, I'm scared. It wasn't like that. It was just like, oh no, I'm not doing that. I want to go ahead and keep this connection expanding, take in this information, get what I can from my cellmates and from the bosses and all that stuff. But I pulled from that field of simulation and choice in that manner. Now, the question I had is related to what you were just saying and what we're talking about, but I think it might give us a different slant because it's closer to home. So I know, there's been a myriad, just a whole bunch of civilizations, so to speak, here on Earth. And the one that most people, not everybody, but most people can kind of pull from one way or the other, be it whether they've been presented with something, read something, whatever, or their own infinite intelligence communion, is Atlantis. Now, when people talk about Atlantis, they obviously talk about the fall, but most of it is about the level of technology, of the collective society, and of course the struggle of light and dark and all that, whatever. But I don't hear a lot of people talking about the level of the individual awareness and application of the remembrance, and what level of remembrance did we have? Did we have multidimensional remembrance? And people often talk about, oh, our technology has reached the level of Atlantis, even though a lot of it may be being withheld or whatever. But from your experience in what you know, what was the level of the I want to say the average human being in Atlantis, in contrast, not to compare, just for sense of context, in comparison to where we're at? You get what I'm saying?
Yes, yes. So the thing with Atlantis, and that's something that has come up for a while, and I did explore some of it. to kind of get a deeper understanding of what took place and, what was the experience there, because, you can go back and look at the archives and be able to kind of step into their consciousness in their bodies and experience what the environment is. What that experience is there was a knowing, but there was a shift in from self-directive and self-creation to creating and using technologies to bring a certain level of ease and control.
Mm-hmm.
Artificial intelligence on Atlantis was extremely high, in the sense of saying, okay, we want to have an environment where we don't have to do anything technology does everything, and we just live in this nirvana sort of system. And as much as it was appealing, there were many souls that come and gone because they found it boring.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And they thought, well, maybe because we are not creating enough simulation. So it was automated simulation rather than ourselves using our own capacities to simulate. So there was a detachment between the separation that existed in Atlantis, where there was technology and then there was you. They did not merge, but they created technology to be the slave of servant
Mm-hmm.
to the human. So meaning, I want to be served, I'm going to use technology to serve me. Well, what ended up happening is the Atlanteans at that point in time got so complacent about that, and that the technology itself started to override the human of that time, which were Atlanteans. They were not in these bodies, but they had something that had some.
Yeah, we had ugly feet in Atlantis.
But so at that point in time, the technology itself overrid
which was probably the hand of God. Just
well, it was
pushing
the collective creators that were in charge of
the
the retooling of planets and said,
well,
okay,
I mean,
let it ride.
Yeah,
It was a good learning experience, though.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that's. I mean, I'm just speaking as an energetic pattern. You had the what we might say the laziness started to creep in, which you could also say stagnation. So you have stagnation, and then you've got this pressure, and be it the storyline is AI, but it's still energy. Yeah, you were just, but in terms, well, I guess you did answer that question, because the collective would not have gone into that level of laziness, whatever you want to call it, if it weren't happening at an individual level, regardless of what controllers might have been, doing it with, some type of strategy or whatever. Which really, if you look at the nuts and bolts of it, we're faced with something very similar today. But now looks like that. And I love what you said. I know we got to go here in 10 minutes, but I love what you said last year about, do we choose the red? We had not chosen the red path or the blue path yet, 10 days before the election. And you said explicitly, if we choose the blue as a group, because we all do make the choice, it will go faster and the distortion will become louder. And it is amazing over the last even 2 weeks how much that is showing. And not just from what's being presented, but what people are doing. Like, you can see they're going, really? I don't want this. For whatever it is, I don't want this. And to include in the I don't want this is, I don't want to fight. I don't want to fight with you. You want to do that, you go ahead and do that, but I don't, or do this, or whatever the case is, be it a government or whatever. It's just, it's amazing, because when you said that, I was like, and I'm a big optimist. And I was like, yeah, but it seems like it's going to take a while. But man, you can see it happening at a far beyond an exponential level now.
Well, absolutely. And the difference between now and before in the Atlantis time, we agreed upon, because that wasn't a good experience too. There was nothing wrong with the experience. You know, it was what it was. Every experience, every creation is an opportunity. It was like, okay, we tuned down our technology and just be in play without using our technology, and let the technology create the environments and the simulation. So, you know, The Matrix,
Mm-hmm.
the movie?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say this as weird as this sounds, because it, you know, The Matrix is kind of the same thing. What that movie was actually showing was an accentuated opportunity of seeing what the times of Atlantean was. Because at that point in time, the technology was creating the realities, and you just were in experiencing reality. Where we are now is that we are the one that's creating the reality. We are in charge, even though we believe we're not. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just a difference. That's all it is.
Yeah.
So this is why when all this inverted stuff was put in, was a throwback of the fact of creating an environment that was a simulation of the Atlantean times, but in reverse, and so that we would buy into it. This is the way it is. On this playground, technology does not have capacities to do anything unless we allow it to. We have enough access as our sourceness and consciousness and so forth, that unless we totally comply, we totally are on board, nothing happens. This is why there's been so much education and so much pressure and so much introduction and focus on teaching us, or at least programming us, how to think, how to feel, how to respond, what is acceptable, what's not acceptable, what's the truth, what's not the truth, and so forth. Because it's been known right from the beginning that no technology has capacity to override us.
Makes sense.
So that's train the ones that actually at the driving what route to take and how to drive.
So that makes total sense. We raised the bar because we expanded. It's not, AI is not the threat. It is, as some people like to say.
Correct.
I don't want to say war on consciousness because I just don't like the word war, but it is the consciousness, which isn't coming from an AI. It may be used as a tool to deliver a message or a subliminal or whatever the case is, but it's actually the man behind the curtain, so to speak. That energy is through the power of suggestion versus AI. But you make the point that we came into this one probably, I would imagine, as a result of the Atlantean experience, made the change that the technology is not going to be able to do that because we've gone beyond it. So what's left to suggest things and let them create their own reality and wake up to the fact that they're actually doing it to themselves, regardless of what the story looks like or who the bad guys are. Beautiful.
Just to add to that, the thing is, it was written in the operating system when the planet was retooled that it would not ever be possible to override the human operating system. Now, even when the ego was put in, which was the software, and the inverted matrix was put in, and the satellite that was streaming the inverted matrix was put into place, none of it still overrid us. It just created different scenarios where we're seeing everything backwards, but we were the ones that were still navigating. So the thing is, we can never get out of the driver's seat. We can create a simulation that we're out of the driver's seat. Where in Atlantis, at the time of the Atlantis, it's like, these things that they're talking about, self-driving cabs and things like that or whatever. that's how it was in Atlantis. It's like, okay, take me where you want to
Blade
take
Runner.
me. They go sit in the back seat and let the AI drive them around. Where when we came here, we said, no, we're always going to stay in the driver's seat. But you can you will allow a narrow what do you call it? Who's the one that sits next to you? That
Backseat driver.
no, could be a backseat driver, but at this point in time, somebody that will be the navigator or at least read the map, sort of thing, whatever. Yes. Will allow some of that to come into place, and that's the only allowance we provided. So this is why a lot of the things that play now the way it does, and have created all these illusionary ideas, was because we can never be taken off the driver's seat.
Yeah,
we can create the illusion of it. We can create whatever, but this is the thing is now. It doesn't matter how much AI comes in, how much technology is put in. If we collectively agree to deactivate it, it will deactivate because we got the kill switch. And it's not so much like the kill switch. We actually have the overriding capacities. It's designed that way.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the thing.
So if the cell phones and the internet go down, it's our choice. And again, only to spur us to expand ourselves, right?
And look at it this way. Even the inverted matrix, it was not able to be applied. And even the ego software was not able to be applied unless we were convinced and we thought, hey, that's a cool experience, let's try it out. Until we agreed, it was not allowed. When we got to a certain level of consciousness 2 years ago, we said, no more. Okay, we're done with that. So we turned off the moon, we turned off the inverted matrix, and we started turning off the ego. Now, we didn't want to turn off the ego all at once because it would have been too shocking, because we created such a reliance on it. But we were going to fade it out. And that's what we've been doing. And this is why it's so ineffective now, or plays such a small role. And it's really just our old memories and stuff that we're, kind of still dancing with.
Beautiful. I was thinking about it. I thought, well, how do we spend an hour and a half, 2 hours with each other every other week? And how do we do that? Because it's like, you would think you'd run out of things to talk about, but to me, it speaks to how much fluidity is in our field, is in everybody, and what we're all experiencing together. It's literally a new world every day. But yeah, powerful. Hey, happy birthday 2 days ago. Sorry I was a day late sending you a text.
Oh, no. It was an interesting time at that day. So I was barely functional. So I didn't actually see too many things until the next day. Okay. And even the next day, I only saw bits of it. And I didn't even get any time to do it today either. So anyways, anybody that sent me a message, thank you. And at some point, I'll put a message out to kind of thank everybody. But, it's great. I don't expect it. I don't really put value in receiving it, but it's always like a blessing of thanks or whatever it is. And I really thank people for the connection. Really, it's about the beauty of the journey that we're creating together. And what makes me so appreciative, Todd, beyond you, because I appreciate you and so many beautiful souls. It's all these people all over the world that are turning themselves on, are playing such a beautiful, powerful role. Everybody that you interview is bringing such beauty to the conversations, they're sharing and whatever else. Like, I'm in total joy every time I see it, because it's like, wow, so many playmates, so many coming to life, so many unpacking themselves, so many coming together in such a powerful way, because as we're doing that, we will make this shift even go faster and much more powerfully. And we're not subject to certain individuals coming into place. We're not subject to, the dark fading away. The more we illuminate, the more the dark merges and becomes full spectrum with us. And it's the thing, it's not about fighting it. It's about illuminating it, because we're illuminating it. So it's, and the thing is, the more we illuminate in us, the more darkness. Now, even though that we may have had a lot of different experiences in our lives that we have related as being darker versions of ourselves, which is basically a little bit more unconscious state of yourselves. But the thing is, that's what brought us here. So now we can shine because of what brought us here.
Mm-hmm.
So there's an appreciation for everything rather than demonizing anything, because the moment we demonize, we still polarize. The moment we demonize, we enforce separation. And oneness, 0 point, neutrality, and all of that exists in your true essence is not fully nurturing or expansive when we're still polarizing all that stuff. So this is the thing, love the experience, but the thing is, we're taking actions to upgrade it. That's all we're doing. We're upgrading. We're upgrading ourselves. We're upgrading the playground. We're upgrading our interactions and so forth. So I'm an amazing appreciation for you and all these beautiful aspects out there that are coming to the playground in their more truer selves, more illuminating and so forth. And to me, like I said, it's a joy because there's a huge comparison from when I arrived to now, because over the years, I've seen more and more coming on board, more and more illuminating, more and more powerful beings, taking an active role. And it's like, yes, family's coming, like we're taking charge. So
you're starting to turn into like a prune or a raisin. Come in as a grape and like, where is everybody? Hey, I love you, brother.
Love you too, my friend.
See you in 2 weeks, if not sooner. Maybe we have a private combo or something.
I'm going to have to send you that recording so you can post it out if you like. The one that we had that private combo.
Oh, yeah. Have you put it out? Have you put it out?
No, I haven't yet. Well, I will.
Maybe we'll have another one. Maybe it's old news now. I don't know. I don't even remember.
I don't think so. I don't think so. There was some profound stuff in there. So what I'm going to do is I'll send you a link.
Mm-hmm.
And just when you go to there, you can download the whole video.
Yeah, I'll run it as a live.
Yeah, sure.
And I just found out, I think I mentioned at the top of the show, we're actually going to be on Twitter. I got the message that I didn't know Twitter did lives or videos. I've never been on
They
Twitter.
never did. You have to go through Periscope.
Yeah, but I just got a message. Periscope is going to be dissolved, and to sign into Twitter and authorize on the platform. So we'll be, I don't know. Anyway, but we'll be out there.
The one thing, let me know how that works out, because did you find out that you can actually, because from what I understood, whenever you wanted to go through Periscope, you had to use a phone or something like that. You couldn't. I've been
doing Periscope since early 2020.
Really?
Yeah, I've been doing Periscope.
And off this type of platform?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Oh, okay. Well,
in fact, we're doing it right now. Delia was on it a minute ago, but evidently, I guess they're being dissolved, and so Twitter's must have a platform in place. That's probably what it is. Now that I think about it, they probably put in built a parallel system, and then just removed Periscope, which they had acquired. So I would imagine it's going to be something similar to that. I don't know how it attaches to Twitter platform itself, but yeah. So anyway, we're just going to keep on blowing and going. Maybe we'll see within the time between the next show, and give Kimberly a big hug and tell her thank you from me and everybody else. And again, happy birthday. Yeah, hope you're around for another couple 100 years.
Well, we'll be here as long as we need to be here. And so definitely I've penciled you in for 2 weeks from now. The one after that, I'm not sure if we can. I'll let you know if we have to change it, because the fact that we will have to leave here by the 24th, and that one's on the 22nd. So
okay.
Yeah, we have
whatever we got to do. No big
if
deal.
I have no internet or no place to stay or to do anything from, we may have to postpone it. That's all.
Okay. All right, brother.
Cool.
I'll see you later.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. Take care.